Oh, yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my show, Number 9 Talk. Here with my guests, Kendall and Sav. We're just talking there before the show started, how much I thoroughly enjoyed the game today, and how much there seems to be a bit of improvement, but maybe not in a midfield type way, because I still felt there's still a bit of work to be done in midfield. What would be your take on today's game, Kendall?
Yeah, I do agree. I don't think Hendrick had a huge impact today. I thought it was all right. I thought he's pretty solid, but I don't know what he offers us in midfield as opposed to like Hayden, for example. So I really don't know what he offers us in midfield there. Apart from that, I thought Sean Longstaff had a brilliant game. And Almiron as well had a fantastic game. If it wasn't for Wilson scoring them 2 goals, it would have been up for them 2 for man of the match for me personally. I think Sean offers way more in midfield than personally Shelby, because you're waiting for Shelby to have one of his Shelby days where he's good and he can string a pass, whereas other times he's very inconsistent. But Sean was driving it forward today. I think he's a really, really good replacement, and then if he carries on the way he was today, hopefully he's over his injury and whatnot, then I'd really think that he should have a place in the midfield, to be honest. But yeah, the second half was a lot better to watch than the first half. The first half was a bit of a shambles getting into the swing of stuff, but yeah, second half was definitely better.
Yeah. But what would be your take there, Sav? I mean, what Kendall's just said there, it was definitely squeaky bum time by the end. But then you look at the people who you brought on in the end, Carroll, and it just kind of slowed the game down as well. Like I said, what would you think, Sav?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. First half, I could have dozed off during that. It was just typical, how we played. And Everton weren't even playing particularly well. We had a couple of chances. I thought, if we actually went at them, we could actually get something from this game. But the first half, it just wasn't working. Lewis, I found, was weak in the first half. Like, I saw him throw a couple of long balls that then went back to Everton. And then in the second half, it was like we woke up. And, once we were actually had, I think they said something about us playing attacking football. And I was like, well, what the hell's going on here? Because that never happens. And, I think it started working better. Wilson was brilliant. Miggy was brilliant. Even though I saw in a review, he got the same as, who was it?
Lee Ryder's absolute rubbish that he wrote. Did he even watch the game?
Yeah, I was just like, how have you given him that low? He did some amazing runs today. And then, Fraser, when he came on, he was what we needed. St Max weren't working in that position today at all. And to be fair, I wouldn't have been upset if he hadn't come back on for the second half.
No.
He doesn't sit happily in that position. And he just seems to get knocked to pieces. But yeah, let's say at the end, I found that really stressful. Felt like I needed therapy. I swear, if they'd have got that equaliser, I would have been in such a bad mood tonight. It's just sod's law to happen. But yeah, no, second half was actually quite entertaining, bar those last few minutes.
Yeah. I mean, you just mentioned there, Sav, about St Maximin. Maybe you should have scored that goal in the first half. It just seemed to be quite surprised he was in that position to stick the ball in the net and kind of fluffed his lines. But I don't know. I don't know whether I'm reading it right. Maybe Everton should have had a penalty in the first half. But St Maximin, I feel, does his best work coming in from the left and driving in on the turn. He always looks the best player he can be in that position. But playing him as a kind of a number 10 role or even further up front, I think he's kind of lost, and he can't use his power, his strength, his pace in that position. Kendall, what would be your...
No, definitely. I completely agree. I think he said in an interview I don't know if it was a few months ago, he said that he prefers playing centrally because he feels like he can, he can feed off the striker in that role. However, I think that him playing centrally allows him to be lazy because he doesn't have to do any. He's not really having to do any creativity because that's up to the wingers. So I think for me, he needs, and obviously no one really knows what he's going to do or how he's going to play football. Like that's just who he is. That's just the type of player that he is. And then he sort of loses his head a bit because his passes come off shoddy. Like he is very inconsistent in his final third, and that's his problem. So for me, if he's in a wing role, as you say, on the left, which is where he seems to be the best, he needs to have a definitive role on the wing so that he has a direction in which to go in. Because otherwise he's relying on positioning and pace, both of which aren't his strong points. I mean, he's fast, but when we're lumping long balls up, when we've already got a lone striker, it doesn't work. So for me, he's massively creative, and that's why we need him on the wing. And unfortunately, the last 2 games he's played centrally and he just hasn't looked good. But I mean, that's not really his fault at the end of the day. That's obviously the formation. But I think all that needs to change is him and Almiron just need to swap positions. That's literally it. Almiron needs to be on the right or the left, depending. Fraser on the other one, and ASM and Almiron in the central. That's what needs to happen because Almiron's positioning and his pace is a lot better. So I would like to see that switch. But other than that, I think ASM's looked sort of non-existent the last 2 games. But hopefully he's back on the wing soon enough and we can see the player that we all love.
Yeah, it's sometimes sad to see. You know, I mean, we talked about Almiron as well, looking quite upset and quite down in the dumps. You know, the people who have worked with Bruce or players who have worked with Bruce say how much of a good manager he is. But you know, when you've got some of your squad looking like they either can't be bothered or they're just fed up. It's no good, is it? I mean, like with Sav there as well. You know, it's you just can't have a happy squad all the time. But it's the same time, you know, it's you as the manager who's got to sort that out. To you, Sav?
Yeah, I mean, I've touched on this the other day with Steve Bruce, and you know, it's like I said. He tries to be everyone's friend, which can only work for so long because eventually someone gets upset and then upsets come, you know, in the dressing room. And then, you know, it's just like, I say, Mickey he looks a bit happier since now he's come back and he's starting him again. I don't know if something happened, you know, during those games that he wasn't starting him for, because like today, we would have been a different team without him out there. But he's playing people out of position, and that's just going to cause ructions because people can't play to their full potential if they're not doing what they normally do. And I find Steve Bruce quite frustrating because sometimes he doesn't make the changes that need to be made when they need to. Like today, he could have made changes at halftime, match before as well. Changes could have been made at halftime, and they're not being made 10 minutes till the end. Sometimes, you know, that's too late. And I think that it would just be, I don't think it'll ever happen, but it would be nice to see him become a little bit more precise on those decisions and, you know, be a bit more authoritative rather than everyone's mate. It's just, I don't think that's going to happen, but that would be nice.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was a comment the other day of Steve Agnew and Clements, you know, with the crayons out, you know, sorting out tactics and whatever else, which was actually really quite funny. But you know, that's the way it all seems to us fans. We look and digest everything that goes on around the club. You know, we follow every single minuscule of that team and its background. But then you look and then they come out and say, well, you know, you're unfairly saying, you know, you've got no clue, you've got no this. But that's the way it comes across to us fans, and we can't keep brushing everything under the carpet just for you. So, you know, of course you're going to get the stick if the fans are unhappy. I mean, it's the same, not just for Newcastle, it's around the globe, everywhere. Every football team, every football fan is going to be, if they're unhappy, they're going to tell you. And that's, I think, that needs to happen. There's a question here from Nathan. Murphy Megan, that wing back position is on. If we were to go back to a flat-footed back, I'd rather him play over Mankeo, Kraft, Yedlin. Your thoughts? Kendall, go straight to you.
I completely agree with the whole Murphy scenario. I think he is in that position. He's just looked bright. He's been one of our best players. I mean, last game he would have had a shot, like he would have man of the match for me. So I do completely agree. I think it completely depends. If we're going to play attack and football, that wing back position is perfect. But personally, I don't like a back five usually, but it has worked in the last 2 games. But for me, definitely over Yedlin and Kraft all day long, although Kraft did come into his own when he was playing over Manquillo. And the way Jacob Murphy's playing at the moment, I think, I don't think he deserves to be dropped whatsoever for any of our right backs. So, I would just keep him there personally, definitely.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, this is a player who's been out of the scene for 2 years. So, but Sav, what would be your take on the whole thing?
Yeah, I say that, as Kendall's just said, he was man of the match for me last match. I thought we came in, it was a bit, oh God, he hasn't played since sort of pre-season. How's he going to be? And he was amazing. And I think today again, he just showed that is, where I think he's the best person to be in that position. And it's like, because he's a proper fan of the club, you can see it in him that he wants to be out there and he wants to be playing. You don't get that with everyone. And, you find how passionate he looks when he's playing at the moment. I've been really impressed with him sort of since he's come back.
Yeah. He seems a changed player, and he seems to want to make a fist of it now. And wants that shirt, which is what we all want as fans. We want to see players who want that shirt, who want to pull on that shirt for the team and not just for themselves. Fan feud. The sad reality is that players who don't seem to perform at Newcastle would likely flourish elsewhere. Well, we've already seen that with many other players. Would you guys say it's lies solely at Bruce's door? Possibly, or I would say it's a problem within the club. It's not just Bruce; it's a problem within the club, and that's the end of it, really. What would be your say on that, Sav?
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think you can put it down to Steve Bruce as a whole. I think that as you say, it's happened with many players before Bruce, and it is just a problem that the club seems to have, and they sometimes don't get the best potential out of the players, for one reason or another. And it is. That's what I feel it's down to. I don't necessarily feel I can blame Steve Bruce for an awful lot of things, but I don't necessarily think the blame lies fully on his doorstep for that one.
Kendall?
Yeah, exactly the same. I think it's a mixture of a lot of things because, I mean, in all fairness, there's a few players have regressed under Bruce. So, like Lascelles, for example, just hasn't looked like remotely at all himself since Bruce came in as manager. Same as players like Shah, for example, just haven't looked up to their best like they used to under Rafa, especially like defensive players. So obviously it is an issue within the team at first because they're not getting starts, they're not playing in the right positions, for example. But if you just look at like Lejeune, for example, he's gone to Eibar, I believe, and he was at Eibar, he's gone Alaves, sorry, and they played Barcelona yesterday, and he was man of the match. And we let him go when we had 3 defenders out with injuries. So that to me was an odd decision to make. And he's obviously, whether that's because he's suited to La Liga better, whether that's because he's suited to the team better, he's being better coached, I don't know. I don't think the blame can lie solely with Bruce. Yes, some of the onus is on him, but it's a mixture of a lot of things like team, league, opposition, for example. So I really don't think that it can just lie solely at his door.
Yeah. Message here from Martin. Would the girls drop ASM for a more pacier, informed Fraser, or would the team with a drop to accommodate? I kind of get that. Yeah, the thing is with Ansett Maxim, it's his strength as well, and his pace and his willingness to push forward. With Fraser, still getting there, still building up the fitness and putting his eye in and whatever else. But Kendall?
At the moment, yes. because the last 2 games ASM hasn't been up to scratch. Maybe even if it's just for 60 minutes, I think he maybe deserves a game on the bench for Fraser. However, if that's not going to happen, I'm not entirely sure who, because I could say, yeah, let's swap Hendrick for Fraser, but then that leaves Hayden out again if you're going to play Longstaff. And if you're wanting to play Hayden, because obviously he's been our most solid midfielder for the past 2-3 years, then Sean Longstaff doesn't really deserve to be dropped based on the performance today. And if Hayden plays there, we've got no creativity. So I really don't know in what aspect, if ASM was going to be dropped to include Fraser, where you would do it. Because then if you go back to, say, a 4-3-3 and don't play Jacob Murphy at right back because you've been playing him as wing back, he also doesn't deserve to be dropped. So we're at a position now, unusually, where we've actually got a couple of positions that have got, people fighting for them. And we've got decent backup there, which is unusual for us, because I think Matty said on the Magpie channel earlier when I was doing the player ratings, he said that the starting 11 for about 3 seasons now has practically picked itself. Whereas now we've got a couple of players for each position, which is unusual, really. But for me personally, I think he probably shouldn't start next game, and Fraser shouldn't. See where it goes from there.
Yep. Sav?
Yeah, it depends where you're playing, St. Max. Sometimes, this is what I find so frustrating with him. You get he's the 2 extremes. He's either really good, easily our best player, as some pure, moments of brilliance, or he's struggling to, hold possession. He's taking knocks. He's limping around the pitch. I find that when he has a bad game, he does a lot of limping and laying around like he's injured. And I don't necessarily always know if that's real or if that's sort of trying to put an excuse behind a bad performance. I find that with him sometimes. I think I probably would start Fraser over him at the moment. I think Fraser today, he looked strong. He made that second goal for us. And whilst he's putting in performances like that, then it's 100% worth a try of starting him instead of St. Max. I don't know how well that would go down with ASM though, on not being started, because I think, he sort of likes to know that he's, the top player and things like that in the team. He wants to shine. But when he's so inconsistent, I don't know whether you can necessarily say, oh, well, yes, we'll start you every time, no matter how you play. I think he's got to prove that he can be consistent within the team.
Yeah, I completely agree with both of you. But, I see it as every player shouldn't be comfortable in playing week in, week out. You've got to drop these players just to say, you've got to keep your shorts up. You've got to, pull everything up, your socks, your shoes, whatever else you want to pull up. But every player needs that. And it's a kick up the backside to say, you are not, a regular star. You are not this mega star you think you are. You play for the shirt, not for yourself. And that would be my take on the whole thing. Going back to Kendrick, I thought he seemed solid, but didn't do a lot, really. He got himself in there into moments where, the ball could have been carried forward, and into moments where he just passed it off, kind of thing, just to move things on, but that's sometimes what you want, just something simple. You don't always need this, like with Shelby, the 100 million yard pass. You don't always need it. All you need is just something simple to get things moving, and that would be my problem with Shelby. He is always looking for himself. He's slow. Kendall, you've touched on Shelby many times. And every time you spoke about him, I always agree. But with Hendrick, he's a kind of someone who's there and solid and doesn't give up on the game. What would be your thoughts between our midfield?
I definitely agree about Hendrick. I just don't know. I've said several times now that I just don't know what he offers to midfield above sort of anyone else in that position. We've seen he hasn't worked on the right. That's just not his position. He's not an out wide player. And then he obviously today he was just kind of, last week he wasn't great. But he wasn't bad, he just wasn't great. This week he also wasn't bad or great. He wasn't like a standout player or anything. So I'm not really entirely sure like where he is best at, because centrally he doesn't offer a lot. I mean, Longstaff was miles ahead of him today, but I know they're completely different players. Obviously, Hendrick's not like a creative type player. But for me, I would just much prefer, if they're going to play a midfield too, like I just personally would just prefer Hayden there. Or if they're going to want him to play more attacking, I don't know, maybe he's Almiron there or something like that, you know, like just centrally. I just don't know what they're going to do. But Bruce seems to be a big fan of him, so whether or not he drops him, I'm not sure.
Yeah. What he was brought in was Sean Longstaff, and I thought he had a good game. As much as I think he had a better game in the first half than he did in the second, I think. But yeah. Sav, what would be your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought actually Sean Longstaff had a good match today. Actually, little secret, on FIFA, he's amazing. I start him every time. He actually scores me loads of goals. I proper rate him. And then today when I saw he was starting, I think I've played way too much FIFA. I was like, oh, yeah, brilliant, start him. But no, I think that he actually...
10-0.
You are?
We're winning 10-0.
yeah. I just think that today he shone, and I don't really see why he can't be started again. I think you need to give other players opportunities to show what they can add to the squad, rather than playing, maybe, well done, Steve Bruce, for that. I don't know. I hate saying that. But, but I think that I can't see why he can't be started again. I think he offered quite a lot today, and like Kendall said with Hendrick, and, how he plays in comparison. I know there are different players, but Hendrick always passes the ball backwards. Like today, straight back to the cells. Like I kept watching him, and it was again and again. I know he's there to sort of cut out the middle and things, but you watch someone like Sean Longstaff who actually takes the play forward, and that's what we need in our squad. That's what we've been lacking for quite some time. And yeah, I found he had a really good game today.
Yeah. Question here from Martin. A statement. Today was not more of a 3-5-2, rather than more of a rigid back five. Yeah, I did notice that when the squad come up, and I was like, oh, is he going to be playing a bit more of a attacking style? But did we get that attacking style? Yes, in moments, but I think they did still drop back into that back five at times. And yeah, I can't agree that things can take time, but you're the manager. You've been in this job for how long? 18 months, 2 years now. You've got to be getting a handle on all this now, and to be putting your own stamp on the team. So yeah, Kendall, what would you say on that one?
Yeah, it depends how you look at it. I do think it's like a 3-5-2, because obviously you're playing two wing backs, so it is more like a 3-5-2, definitely. Because I think we've learned in the past that a flat back five doesn't work. However, sort of Lewis and Murphy in wing back positions works a lot better. Yeah, I think now Steve Bruce maybe he's going to stick at this formation. I don't know. Maybe this is going to be the making of him. And his identity on the team, I really don't know. It's worked for 2 games now, so maybe I'm not entirely sure whether this is how he's going to play, because we know that obviously today again we only had like less than 40% possession. I think it was something like 38% possession. So we're not playing possession football. That's just not what we're going to do. Clearly, because we've had low possession in pretty much every game we've played now. So yeah. I really don't know what to say on Steve Bruce in that respect, because as I say, if he kicks on now with this formation and this is how he's going to play, then that's fair enough, and we'll see how it works and who he changes. But fingers crossed he's got the right idea at the moment. It's working for him, so I hope he sticks at it and doesn't keep changing like he always does.
Yeah. Looking at Martin's next one is match today. I think Fraser have more of an impact on the pitch than St. Maxim. Form could be dipping, perhaps, maybe carrying a knock or injury. Now, we've looked at St. Maxim, and he is a tenacious guy, and he's a tenacious player. And everyone just wants to kick him up a height, don't they? That's the be all and end all. I mean, you if you watch the matches, you know, he's gone from having maybe a player or two around him to having like 5. I mean, it's like velociraptors of like I said on another show. You know, it's just all accumulates, and all they want to do is just kick him. But yeah, I do agree with that. Sav, what would be your?
Yeah, it's like I said before. You know, I struggle with St. Max with whether it always seems to be when he is having a bad match that he will start limping and looking in pain and stuff like that. And whenever he's having a good match, you don't see that. Whether or not that's because he's having a bad match because someone's kicked him and things, you know, I'm not sure. I don't really know what it could be with him. I just can't work it out at the moment. But like today, he just was having a bit of a shocker. And then the next thing, he's like bumped into someone, seemingly not that hard. I mean, I didn't really massively know, you don't know how hard he's hit. And then he's laying on the floor. But then he's come back on for the second half. So you'd assume that he's not that injured. But I don't know. I think it just depends on the position you're playing him in and who. I think you have to look at who your opponents are and who he's going to be up against, because I think that's something that's not necessarily looked at, because he can be such a standout player. He's always started, and I think maybe Steve Bruce has got to look at who they're facing and organise in a better way as to whether he's going to play him or not, because I think if he seems to be getting injured that quite easily, it's going to be one hard knock and he's going to be out for a long time. We're going to be without him, and I think that I'd like Steve Bruce to look at that a bit more and not necessarily start him if he doesn't think that he's going to face up to who we're opposing.
Yeah. Jonathan, you're right, mate. I think it's time Hendrick had a rest. He's been a passenger the last few games. I'd like to see Hayden back in for the Southampton game. Now, Hayden's a different player to Hendrick. He's the player that, I've said before. I could see him in a Teotia role. Just kind of that break up play and get things started. But someone else has made a comment when I last said that. It says, yeah, but he had Kabay ahead of him. But yeah, it's playing with the right people. It's playing with having the right balance in a team to implement your way forward. Sav?
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to have been swapped for Hayden today. I think that's what we needed in that role more than Hendrick. I think he does, he puts in a shift. And I kind of feel sorry for the amount of stick he gets on social media at the moment, because he hasn't played with us long, and, players do need to settle. And actually, his first game with us, he was actually really good. He scored. But since then, I just haven't seen that, whether or not he's not being in position or, he's not being comfortable. He does break up play in the middle, but I just think I would rather see Hayden in that role. I think from the fact that we don't really have a true leader out there most of the time, I think at the moment Hayden would be more for me, and I think that we are lacking that sometimes. And whereas Hendrick doesn't, he's not a leader. I think Lascelles, although he is captain, I'm not 100% convinced on him being captain. I'd rather see Hayden there. I don't know, was Hayden injured? Was that why he wasn't started? I'm sure I read that somewhere.
I don't know. He was on the bench last game as well, so I just really don't know what's going on with him at the minute.
Yeah, no, I can't. I just can't work out why he's not starting him. And as I say, I would have him on instead of Hendrick at the next match if he's fit, because that's the only thing I could assume why he wasn't starting.
Yeah. What I want to look at now is Darlow. I think Darlow had every goalkeeper has the moments, but I think he had a solid game. And would you girls say, does Dubravka get his spot back, or does he have to earn it again? Kendall?
Yeah, I think I feel sorry for Darlow because he hasn't really put a foot wrong, if I'm honest. But unfortunately, the way the squad works, Dubravka's our number one. And obviously, we were in a much better position than we probably would have been without Dubravka last year. He was pretty much our saving grace. So I do feel bad for Darlow because I think it's unfair for Dubravka to come straight back and get straight in. Personally, for me, like the first game Dubravka's back, I wouldn't just put him in there. I'd maybe keep Darlow on and let Dubravka, have a bit more training and be fully fit and back to Dubravka level. But don't think Dubravka's put a foot wrong. First 15 minutes were a bit dodgy. He made a couple of dodgy sort of decisions playing out from his line. But other than that, he really hasn't. And he saved a penalty as well, which is unusual. So, yeah, I do feel for him. But I think just Dubravka's just has a little bit more quality, and I trust Dubravka a little bit more. But Darlow hasn't really done anything negative, if I'm honest.
Yeah, Sav?
Yeah, Darlow has actually really impressed me this season, like beyond what I thought he would. Like looking at him in pre-season, I was a little bit nervous about him being in goal and playing because a lot of the pre-season, I mean, I know the recordings were a bit iffy and it's from one camera and you didn't really see a lot, but I didn't actually rate him then. But since he's been amazing. Like he hasn't put a foot wrong, and for a second keeper to be playing at that level is actually quite impressive. The other thing that as I said before, with leadership, for me, Dubravka sort of edges it for me. You always see him stand at the back yelling. And we do need more players like that because there's not a lot of it going on. So for me, Dubravka does edge it. But Darlow, I think, we're very lucky to have had him in goal this season, considering, we're missing our number one, because I think we would have seriously struggled and not been in the position where we are if we hadn't.
Yeah, completely agree. What I would like to touch on is Manquillo. In the last couple of seasons, he's come to prominence. He's given a bit more than what he would normally do. And I mean, at first, we weren't exactly, but be it, he played for Sunderland as well, didn't he? So, but he's a type of player who's improved, but then maybe taken a step back as well. And I look at Manquillo and I see a player in there, but at the same time, could you say he should be starting, or should he, be sold? I don't know. It's a strange one with Manquillo. Kendall?
Yeah, I do agree. I think personally, I just think he's been very underrated the past couple of seasons. We haven't had a right back to sort of rival him for a long time, and he hasn't really done badly. He hasn't been a standout player for us, don't get me wrong, and he's not a world beater, but he's been pretty solid for us. I don't really think that you can sort of say much negative about him, although 4 seasons ago, people would absolutely cry if he was on the starting lineup. Whereas the past 2 seasons, whether that was because of Rafa, I really don't know. Rafa's coach, whatever, he came into his own and he was just better in that position. I'm not sure. If we're going to continue to play this back 3 with the 2 wing backs, he's not going to get back in, unfortunately, in my opinion, if Murphy stays fit, because that's just not. He's very good defensively, Manquillo, which is why we used to rely on him last season a lot when we were playing defensive football. If we're going to, as I say, stay at a back 3, he's not going to get a game there, but I don't think that he's worth selling at all. I think we need to keep him. I would have him. I used to say that I would have him over Kraft before the injury. So, yeah, I think he's very underrated. He's underratedly solid for us. And I would keep him just in case we decide to go for a back four defensive shift again, and I'll put him in there. But seemingly Bruce prefers Kraft. I'm not sure if that was just because of Manquillo's injury or what, but he played cup games and then he played the last couple of games before we reverted to this formation. So, yeah, definitely keep him. I think he's all right if we're not going to improve that position anytime soon.
Yeah. A question here from Andrew. Thought Sean Longstaff was decent today. Hopefully him and Hayden start against Southampton. That's what I was coming to. The next game, Southampton. But yeah, we'll go through that. Sean Longstaff was decent. He's not played a lot of football, though, has he, over the last 6 months? And he come on and give a good account of himself. But should he be starting every game, or should he be putting in, against Shelby for his spot, or Sav?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say he should be starting every game. I think everyone needs a chance, and I think everyone needs game time to see, who fits better where within the squad. I mean, today I thought he was really good. He's a more attacking player, which is what we need, especially with that sort of lineup. I think that we need to offer more going forward, whereas Shelby, he long balls it, and he's a bit of a, sometimes Shelby does have the odd goal where it's just complete brilliance and you think, oh yeah, that's great. But then for every one of them, there's so many more frustrating times of watching him just, running about. I don't know if I had to pick, I'm not sure. I think, Shelby's got more experience, but then he is very inconsistent. When he's on a good day, he's brilliant. When he's on a bad day, he's just shocking and he's just giving the ball away all over the place. Sean Longstaff, I think he needs more time. He does need more game time. I think to just, show whether he should be started. I would start him against Southampton. Obviously, they've had a win this weekend. Aston Villa crashing back down to the ground a bit, didn't they? But I would start him at the next match and just see how it goes. I mean, Shelby's out, so it would be worth, trying him there while he's out and seeing who fits there better. Yeah.
Let's switch it up a bit. Let's say with Longstaff Jr. Should he be given some spots, because he has been out with injuries and wherever else, but we've never heard anything about these injuries during the time he has been injured. It's always been, oh well, he's had a knock here and he's had a knock there. But should he be given a bit more of a? Because he only signed a contract. When was it? End of last season, wasn't it? A 2-year contract. So you sign a contract, but then you're not playing. So that's got to be disillusioning as well. Kendall?
Yeah, I think he's been playing a couple of games, the last couple of under-23 games. I think he has been playing. For me, right now, I don't think he sort of fits in the team anywhere. With the games coming up, I just don't think that he has a place there at the moment with everyone that we've got, because we have got so much, not so much, but we have got midfield cover at the moment. Depending on, I don't know how long Shelby's out, because he had a player's hernia or a sportsman's hernia, whatever it's called. So I don't think it's going to be a lengthy amount of time. But with him out, I don't know. It depends what he's going to decide to do, because obviously he's got Hendrick, Hayden and Longstaff, which are the 3 main front runners now. So at this current time, I know it seems unfortunate because we were all so desperate for him to sign a new contract and, keep him at the club, because he's a young talent and he showed some promise last season. At this current time, I just don't see where he fits in for me personally. So, yeah, I don't know. And maybe he's an impact sub or whatever, but yeah, I don't think he starts for me.
Yeah. I mean, I'll bring in, for, what was it, 4 starts, 2 goals or something like that, wasn't it? Or 4 games, 2 goals, but both against Man U, weren't they?
Yeah, Man U hate him.
Yeah. That's what we want. Right. So I think the wing-back system, this is from Andrew, The wing-back system suits Murphy because he's very direct when going forward. Yes, we've covered that extensively tonight, but yeah, I do agree. He's not the defensive person. He's a guy. I mean, looking at the way he's been playing, he's always trying to dink that ball in and to get things moving on. So yeah, I do like Murphy now because he's not. He's been out the squad for 2 years now. He's been on loan. From Jonathan, the link between the defence and attack could be improved. Now, I did cover this on either another show or mine. Maybe it's time for a new system and players getting used to it, but we just seem to be passing the ball sideways and backwards a lot at the time. Yeah. Jonathan, yeah, that's a good shout. We have said earlier on that is a problem, but that's the reason why you have training days. That's the reason why people like Keegan, Bobby Robson had players in St James's Park sometimes, just to see how he could get the right balance of players for the next game. And this is a problem where you can't just throw a load of players out and go, right, you're playing in this position. You've got to test it and you've got to play with it. Otherwise, your own players are going to go, what the hell are we doing? Saf?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think what I noticed today, a little bit more than our last match, was the fact that we were able to pass the ball a bit more. I mean, last match, 4 passes, I think I was counting before we was losing possession. This time it was a little bit better. I think the way that we set up and with players that we had suited that more. I still think that we struggle with possession greatly. It's actually quite frustrating to watch. But another thing that I did notice today, we were running at the ball. We wasn't just sitting back and letting them take all the possession. We were trying to get it back, which was actually quite refreshing to watch. I mean, obviously, it is a new formation and it's going to take a bit of time to get used to, in training and stuff. And you can't expect them to really go out there first time of doing it and all play perfectly. We did have our faults today, but, we still got the win against Everton, albeit, they had players out, but that's still quite impressive for us. And I was actually, I was over the moon with it. I hope it's the start of us progressing. I hope that we don't do this thing where we slightly progress, like 2 steps forward, 1 step back sort of thing like we have done. But yeah, I think that we looked better in that formation and it was nice to see us actually getting forward rather than, I think I saw on the commentary, they said, oh, it's interesting because Newcastle could have settled for this 1-0 win and they're still driving forward. And that, that's something that we don't usually do. And that for me sort of was where we were different today, where we were slightly better.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. Martin, ASM has to earn this shirt same as any other player. Team has to consist of form players. The link will play for me between Fraser and Wilson surely counts for a good pairing. Yeah, we know them from the Bournemouth days, and they've always had that connection between each other. Kendall, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. As I've said, I think he deserves to be dropped next game and Fraser should start because we saw Fraser and Wilson linking up today and it was brilliant. And Fraser offered way more in 10 minutes than ASM did the whole time he was on the pitch. So, yeah, for me, I completely agree with that. And it definitely informed players should be on him. St. Maximin's had 2 games now where he's sort of been not like terrible, but he's been the least good player on the pitch. So yeah, I think definitely needs to be dropped for Fraser next game.
Yeah. The next one was Alakabai, which I brought up earlier on. I found it quite a funny one. Yeah, he's a player that we adored, but then he kind of went on strike, didn't he? He didn't want to play anymore. Unfortunately, but oh well, he got his final transfer to Paris Saint-Germain in the end. What was the next one? This formation is like old Rafa formation. We've gone back to it, much like we did last season after getting a hammering off Leicester. Yeah, I've mentioned this before on one of my other shows. Yeah, it's kind of sticking with the known or the comfortable, and that no player, as I said earlier on, should feel comfortable in playing whatever they are playing. But I always said, during my time of work, I always used to say aces and places. So you've always got to have that. You've got to have, that person is comfortable playing there, but you should never be comfortable in the position you are playing. Sav?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think this is one thing that worries me with ASM is that obviously, he knows how loved he is by fans and he has his, amazing moments. And it's disappointing when, and I do think this is to do with how Steve Bruce sets up the team for each game. Sometimes if we have a really good win, he'll send out the exact same formation, the exact same squad the next game, and that's not necessarily what's going to stand up best to the opposition that we've got. And I think that needs to be looked into. So he won't, but that is something I'd like to see looked more into. But I'd hate to see ASM suddenly becomes sort of go off the ball because he'd had a bad few games, and he's online a lot, social media, he's all over it, he knows that everyone that loves him, and I going back to his old squad where he was, I know that I read that his attitude was actually quite bad there, and that he wasn't showing up to training, but then he was posting videos on Snapchat of him having a night out the same day, and I think that was why he came for such a small fee. But to be fair, since he's come to Newcastle, his attitude's been on point. I'd just hate to see it sort of fall off the wagon again just because he wasn't getting started music. So I'm not saying that's not a reason not to start him, because it's not at all. But for him personally, I think that would be a real shame if he got like that again. I'm hoping that obviously since he's come here, he's just signed a new contract. So, he says, I just hope that he doesn't go down that road. You what, sorry?
6 or 7 year contract, wasn't it?
Yeah, 6-year contract. Yeah, no, I'm just hoping that he doesn't go down that road again. That is always something that slightly worries me with him, because I think he likes to know that he is sort of the number one player and that everyone likes him. I don't know why he was like he was at his old team, but that was the reason behind why his transfer fee was so low.
Yeah, he had a I think at one of the clubs he was at, he had a problem with his decorum. So it's you'd hope players to better themselves, but at the same time, what you just said there, it's you've got to have. You can't just. It's the same with Pardew. The minute he was given his, how long of I think it was 6-year contract.
8 years, I think that's something, wasn't it? Mm.
Yeah, you feel safe, don't you? Because you've been given that. No one in any job should be given that type of contract. I mean, Kendall, you mentioned you were a hostess. If you were given a 7-year contract and said your job's safe, would you kind of think, well, my job's safe?
No, I don't. Well, I don't think.
You know what I'm saying, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think anyone would sort of worry if that. I mean, that's the whole reason that you're given a long-term contract is because you've that's ensuring job safety. I mean, not in the middle of a pandemic, but I don't think anyone could expect that was going to happen. But yeah, definitely.
If it's you're always working to have that, especially as football players and managers, you're always working for that contract. And the minute you're given a big contract, why should you worry? But then managers get big contracts, but then the club's then got to pay out for that contract as well, which I'm sure Alan Pardew got a massive payout from that. So anyway, just bringing up there, Martin Nesbitt says we should have gone for Barkley. Now, I don't know what wages Villa are paying for Barkley, because they're always seem to play quite high wages as well. The same with Fulham with what you call him, the lad from Chelsea.
Oh, Ruben Loftus-Cheek.
Loftus-Cheek. He's supposed to be on something like 175,000 a week or something like that, isn't he?
Yeah, it's quite high. I think, yeah.
There's no way we would have paid for them prices, but I don't know what Barkley's on. I've not had any inkling, but yeah, Barkley we've already mentioned before would have improved that midfield. Kendall.
Yeah, 100%. Like Sav knows, like I championed Barkley from the off of the transfer window. I said Barkley's exactly what we needed. Attacking midfielder, creative. That's what I said. He would have been absolutely perfect, and he's done a job for Villa so far. Obviously not today, but his first couple of games he looked unreal for them. I think he would have been absolutely perfect for us. But unfortunately, we don't have him. So yeah, but I championed him right from the beginning.
Yeah, Sav.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he was actually the most disappointing one that we didn't go for, to be honest. But I just wasn't surprised because, once we'd done our main three sort of signings, that was it for us. It was sort of closed doors and it was done. Transfer window wasn't anything. I mean, Wilson and Fraser, brilliant signings, but apart from, Hendrick, we've touched on him tonight, but I couldn't have seen us being treated to any more because, as a Newcastle fan, you don't get many treats in the transfer window. So, yeah, I think I am disappointed we didn't go for him. Villa did some good business in the transfer window, in my opinion. And, it was disappointing to see players like that sort of fall through the net. We're very slow to move on players, aren't we? And I think that's the reason why we miss out on half of the good ones. But yeah, it was disappointing.
Yeah. Andrew says, I think we look a lot better defensively with the wing back system. Just need to improve on a link play for midfield. Yeah, it has been. I'll go back to something. Go on. I'll give the shameless plug to Steve on NUFC Matters. I sent a message to the show and said, this is something that has been a problem for a while, and we seem to be always buying midfielders, and all the fans are going, "What, another midfielder? What, another midfielder?" We've got like a million miles of midfielders. Why aren't we signing strikers? But are we now seeing why we were going out for the midfielders, Saf?
Yeah, I think we need more attacking midfielders. We've got Shelby. I don't like him much. I think Steve Bruce seems to like him. I don't know if there's something in his contract, but
It's become here.
Yeah, I think that Hendrick, he's another one. As I said earlier, he cuts out play quite well, but creativity wise and going forward, he doesn't offer much. I think we are lacking, a midfielder that is attacking. I think we saw that in Sean Longstaff today, that we do need that. And one that can actually hold possession rather than just long ball it. I think we are lacking in that area quite badly sometimes. I think we're a couple of injuries away from being a total different squad to what we saw out there today. So yeah, I do agree with that.
Yeah, Kendall?
Yeah, completely agree. I think what we lacking is the link-up play, obviously, between the midfield. So I think someone who was attacking and could, instead of Shelby doing this lumping up the long ball to Wilson, we know it just doesn't work. So we could definitely do with some more, attacking midfielders. Whether Sean Longstaff's going to do that today, he did that quite well today. Obviously, that's his first game back for a long, long time. So we'll see where he goes on that. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Another one from Martin. Just let me bring it up. Wiltshire is a free agent. Will he provide a ball playing creativity we need for a season? I take him. Yeah. I think any player is worth looking at who are out of contract, just to bolster sometimes, and then you might find that diamond that actually puts things together in your squad, and that's something we need to look at as well. Kendall?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say no to Wilshere. A few seasons ago, I would have signed him on the dot. I don't see where he would maybe fit in over anyone else, but as a squad player, I wouldn't say no if he was on a free. Depending on obviously his wages and stuff, yeah, I wouldn't say no just to boost the squad a little bit. He's got a lot of Prem experience at a lot of clubs, so yeah, why not?
Yeah. Sav?
Yeah, I completely agree. As Kendall said, I wouldn't know where he would go, but as a squad player, yeah, I would take him. I think, we do, like you said, sometimes you find someone who fits in perfectly and can, be creative within the squad. And I think that, it doesn't happen often, but when it does happen, not of ASM, when he came in and he completely changed how we played, sometimes that does happen. So yeah, I would go for him.
Yep. Also, the Portuguese attacking midfielder Alves is also on a free, and he's only 26. Yeah, probably worth looking at. Now, right? Okay, I'm going to be controversial. Right. So, one of my friends is a Derby fan, so he's been messaging me saying this BZG buying Derby County. So I said I'd give it a shout out. But BZG, as far as I know from watching Stuart Penman and Neil Mitchell, they were really interested in Newcastle United. But once the Saudis come in, they just pulled out because who's going to want to connect or to not connect, to compete with the money that they could bring forward. And yeah, it's a sad turn of events, but at the same time, could Derby be taken over, and would it be BZG? Because I have been keeping an eye on it, and also that word imminent as well. So that brings up a lot of red flags to me. But yeah, Kendall.
Yeah, definitely. I think they were the ones who were interested in buying us last year, and they said that a bid had been accepted and actually no formal communication had been made. So I think that was them, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I don't know, another takeover and it's not ours, so I don't tend to delve into it because please have bad memories from it.
So.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm still too traumatised over ours and all the little clues that are going on in the background. I don't really have space for anyone else's takeover and issues that they're having. But yeah, I have no idea on that one. I'm just too sort of, well, as I said last week, I say, I don't care about the takeover, unless I see someone standing in St James's Park. I'm not going to delve into it at all. But then the reality is that I am delving and I am studying every single picture of bread and anything else that's sort of any pictures of skips with grass in, I'm all on. But other teams, no.
Yeah. What was it Martin said there? Wiltshire on 30 grand a week or even 20 plus. Prem footy snap him up. I reckon he's probably on more than 30 grand a week, surely, because he was at Juventus, wasn't he? Wiltshire, or was it Juventus? Or am I thinking the wrong player?
He was at West Ham.
West Ham, yeah.
West Ham released him, so maybe he might take 30k. It's better than nothing.
Yeah, it was a lad at from Arsenal, Ramsey.
Yeah,
was it Juventus, wasn't he? Yeah, I think he's out of contract now, isn't he?
I think maybe it's at the end. I don't know if it's now or maybe it's at the end of the season. I'm not entirely sure what contract he signed now. I can't remember.
So we'll leave it at this one from Cypher. If it comes up, there we go. So 2-1 against Everton. Overall, are we happy? Well, I'm ecstatic. I'm copper hoop. But I think 11th in the table at the minute, or maybe we might have dropped down.
Yeah,
I don't know.
11th, yeah.
We'll see. Sav?
Yeah, I was over the moon with it. You know, it wasn't an easy ride getting there the last few minutes, but yeah, I would have taken. I didn't think we were going to win today. I really was worried about it, and actually, we came out in the second half and played, you know, better football than what we usually play. It was more exciting. It was more creative. We got forward, and you know, just to see us play like that and create those chances, and not just sit there at 1-0 and just defend and defend. You know, if we'd have done that, they could have easily have drawn with us today. Especially those last few minutes, they proper went for it. You know, they wanted the draw today. So yeah, I was over the moon with the 3 points. I'll take them all day long.
Yeah. Kendall?
Yeah, exactly the same. I think it was a great result for us because I would 0-0. I was 0-0. I was like, oh, I'll take this all day long. I would take a point. Because me and Sav said on Steve's show that we didn't really think that we would get many points from the next like 5 fixtures. So yeah, I'm happy with it. It's over the moon, to be honest.
Yeah, brilliant. You've both been brilliant with me and brilliant on my show as always. Both of you beautiful and great guests. I've said to you both. Anyway, thanks for being on, and I'll see you anon.
Yes, thanks for having
Thank
us.
you. Bye.
Bye.
No problem. Cheers. Yeah, there were my guests, Kendall and Sav. Brilliant as always. I've really enjoyed tonight. I hope everyone enjoyed watching my show. Please like, thumbs up, and subscribe somewhere around here. Yeah. Thanks very much, and I'll see you another next week. Thank you. Good night, you Rajis.